Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cherry and Timber Talk. We are extremely pleased to have two really special guests today. One is Mr. Shishir Hattangadi. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And you know the topic that we are going to talk about today, and I'm sure that it's ironic that we have got him on our show on this day when we're kind of digging up some of his old wounds. So I'm sorry about that, but we would love to hear, sir, from the author's mouth in terms of what exactly transpired on that day. So welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I mean, when Devendra told me about this, I was thinking whether I should really come on this show because it brings back some sour memories. But at the end of the day, so many years later, you can only say that you're privileged to be a part of the making of history in a sense. And it could have been one of those days where we could have won, but I think we did enough things wrong in that game not to win it. And it took a few months for us to, at least for me, to get over that game. Not so much for the fact that we lost it, but we didn't feel very well on the first day. And if I remember correctly, I know it's a long time back to jog my memory to that game, but we dropped a few catches on the first day, quite a few actually, where I think their opening batsman, was it, he got 100, a big
Deepak Sharma.
Yeah. Deepak and I played junior cricket together. I actually never saw him score so many runs in all my junior cricket or any time. But we all dogs have a day, and maybe that was his day. And he got out of the right side of the bed while most of us didn't. And and it's very funny when we talk about sport or any walk of life. Sometimes when you really start assuming and thinking that today is not your day, and even the gods are not going to support you, somewhere I think you start slipping. That is where I think it's important to sort of pull yourself. And I remember very clearly when everything started going wrong for us. Somewhere on the first day, we felt that maybe we're just not destined to, because we never fielded so badly as we did on that day. Bombay has been known to, in those days it was Bombay, of course, known to be pretty sharp in the field, picking up catches. But I can remember very clearly that we dropped some simple catches on that day, and we paid for it very heavily. In the long run, there are two things that stood out. We played without an off spinner in that game.
Yeah.
And my captain, my college mate, and my junior from college, Sanjay Manjrekar, insisted. I don't know. He had this. I don't know whether it was sadistic pleasure, but he felt I used to bowl decent off spin.
But he got 2 wickets.
I got 2 wickets. Yeah, but the problem is, I kept telling him I have not bowled so much in my life. Take me off now. And we had 4 fast bowlers. We had Salil, we had Raju, we had Abhi, and I think we had one more, Suru Naik maybe. I'm not sure. We had 4 fast bowlers in that team, and we had a left arm spinner.
Sanjay
Patil. Sanjay Patil, and I think I bowled 15 overs in the second innings. I should have allowed one of the lower order batsmen to get a 50, which brought them back into the game. But I should have been stopped. If it was like T20 cricket, you bowl 2 overs and pick up 2 wickets, and then you're just taken off the attack. That didn't happen. And I remember I kept telling Sanjay. Then I said, Sanjay, enough. He said, no, your strength is you don't turn the ball, and the batsman will always play for the turn. But I said, I don't know how to turn the ball. That is why I'm worried. Wearing pitch, it was one of those things where I take a lot of pride in my bowling, but seriously, to bowl in 15 overs in a Ranji final was something I hadn't dreamt of.
As they say, sir, as they say, the non-turners become more dangerous on a turning track, right? So that is
what Manjrekar felt. I don't need to endorse what he felt, but I had no choice.
Absolutely. But he picked up 2 wickets, so I guess to success he was right also, right? In giving you a long spell.
Well, you should have realized that, my maximum performance is 2 wickets. I mean, I ended up with 4 wickets. I ended up with 4 wickets in a whole career. So 50% of those wickets were in one inning. So that should
You are
have
a
been a good
statistician's
yardstick.
delight, sir. 50% of
That
the
should have
wickets in
been
a
a
Ranji
decent
match.
yardstick to go by. That he's picked up more wickets in this innings than he has in his career. But it was one of those games where I think it saw the arrival of Abhi Kuruvilla,
Yep.
and of course a certain Sachin Tendulkar who stamped his
Yep.
arrival into first class cricket. Uh,
Yep.
and I think Sachin may have was this 89? Am I right?
90, 90. May
19, yeah,
1991.
Ah,
1991.
so Sachin hadn't
So he'd
yet
already
played
played
for
for
India.
India.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had
Yes.
already.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had already played for India. Maybe this was post Pakistan, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
He played
Post
10
England,
tests. So Pakistan, New Zealand, England,
New Zealand,
England.
and a
England.
test
Yeah,
against Sri Lanka. So he was an established test cricketer by then.
Yeah, but I remember clearly that I think Sachin brought us back into that game along with
Yes.
Dilip in the second innings, and
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
uh, it was something that we expected. I mean, Kapil Dev always expected that we will fight back, and he
Yeah.
kept telling his boys that don't take these guys lightly because they've got this ability to come back even on day 3 and day 4.
Yep.
And we could see that match slipping away and the pressure mounting on them towards the end because somewhere I think the tables had turned and they felt that this could be another loss for them. But it was actually that close at the end. It was one of those cliffhangers that went down to the proverbial wire.
the wire.
And,
Yeah.
but when you look back at that game over the years, yes, there were a lot of emotion.
Yep.
There was Dilip Vengsarkar, holding his tears back. There
Yep.
was a great spell by Kapil Dev. All these things added to the drama of what I think. Also importantly, first class cricket seemed to be falling apart before that game. The interests were not very high. People were not. People were not watching first class cricket, and suddenly, with this crucial final, I
Yep.
think it turned around viewership on ground for first class cricket. People did start coming to the
Yep.
stadiums, the
Right.
turnstiles, and watching first class cricket. And it had a lot to do with some of the big boys playing. Whether it was a Kapil or whether it was a Chetan Sharma or whether it was Sachin, Vinod Kambli, and Dilip Venkataka, who were established test players, or I think Ravi was away; he didn't play in that final. But
Yep.
also the arrival of Abhi Kurvilla from nowhere into
Yep.
into first class cricket, and these were great positives for Indian cricket, and I think it just pushed first class cricket onto the next level in terms of the attention and the viewership from a cricketing perspective. Till then, I felt that around that time, I felt first class cricket was losing its charm. But this
Yep.
result and of course the game that was
Yep.
played
Yep.
elevated first class cricket in a matter of 4 days, 5 days.
Absolutely,
True.
sir. And I think we have Devendra who, followed this game from close quarters, and he has so many lovely anecdotes and memories and stories around this game. So, Devendra, I'll not waste any more time. I'll just hand it over to you. And you can also ask Shishir, sir, about, his certain experiences with your stories, right, in context.
Yeah, so I remember the first 4 days, like Haryana took the crucial first innings lead, and then Mumbai's only hope of making a match out of it was bowling Haryana out in the second innings and then chasing a target. What happened is we were set 355. I mean, I'm saying we because I'm a proud Mumbaiker. So we were set 355 to win in a little over 2 sessions, and we were 34 for 3 at lunch. And I remember I watched that match, unfortunately, on television. I was not there at the ground, but I watched every ball on television. It was telecast live on DD Metro, which was also a great thing by Doordarshan. They actually telecast a first-class match live ball by ball. That the footage has been erased and does not exist is another matter altogether. It's a tragedy. Uh, so what happened is at the lunch interval, Mumbai 34 for 3. I remember Milind Wagle, who was one of the commentators, he interviewed Madhav Mantri, who at that point of time was the president of the Bombay Cricket Association. And one of the questions he posed to Mr. Mantri is that, so will you now sort of put down the shutters because, three down, 355 to get. And Mr. Mantri, believe you me, he said that, we have Dilip, we have Sachin. We are not going to give up. We are going to go for it. And then I remember all hell just breaking loose. Some of the strokes that Sachin played, I think Shishir sir would probably remember. There was one, I think, flat batted six that he hit off Chetan Sharma. It almost as if it was a tennis ball. He just flat batted it over long off, if memory serves me right. Unbelievable batting, 96 in 75 balls in a first class match
Yeah.
in 1991 was unheard of.
Yeah.
And then that everything just boiled down. Sachin unfortunately fell against the run of play. He was on 96 and he fell to a full toss. I think he was caught at short extra cover. And then Vinod Kambli scored a quick 40, but then the wicket started falling. And then with 9 wickets down, Abhi Kuruvilla in 50 to get. And then Mr. Vengsarkar just went crazy. He hit the off spinner Yogendra Bhandari for 26 runs in an over.
Wow.
3 sixes and 2 fours, and I think 1 6 actually hit the roof of the Wankhede and fell down. And then it was just Kapil bowling to Kuruvilla, and all of us praying, and Abhi just keeping him out, and then all leading up to that climax. And of course, somewhere along the way, Mr. Vengsarkar asked for a runner as well, so Lalchand Rajput went out as his runner, and then with 3 runs to win and I think 14-15 balls left, and then that mix-up happened, which was such a tragedy, So a great game of cricket. And I also remember Mr. M.L. Jaisema, the late M.L. Jaisema. He was part of the commentary team, and he announced after the match on television that the man of the match is Dilip Vengsarkar. That is what I remember about that last day. But a great game of cricket, and the first time I cried after a cricket match. And there were many people. I think Professor Shetty himself told me that a few years ago that everybody at the Wankhede was like completely broken, gutted after that victory.
Yep, absolutely. Mahesh, any memories from your end about this game?
In fact, Kapil Dev has on record said that this has been his greatest victory in cricket. I mean, he holds victory to be that special. So obviously, I mean, how much it would have meant for Haryana to beat Mumbai, okay, at that time Bombay, in the finals of a Ranji Trophy. I mean, that those words explain it. I just want to ask Shishir sir one thing. When did you guys start believing that there is an opportunity for y'all to win? 34 for 3, I don't think too many people would have given a great chance. But when did that tide start changing towards you?
Look, I mean, if I can remember one thing about Bombay's cricket, we were, we were respectful of opponents, and while we respected them, we somewhere always felt that whoever does well. I mean, we may not have all big names, we may have some names, but somebody would turn up on that day and perform. And this has been over a decade that I played for Bombay. I always felt that in the dressing room, that whoever gets in will be there, whoever he is. It could be one of the big boys, it could be one of the not so big boys. That was a feeling that actually was imbibed in us right from the junior cricket days. And when you came into the side, or when you played for a team like Bombay, you were observing people. I've heard stories of in the good old days of the 50s, 60s, they would, when Bombay got batting, some of the seniors like Ramakant Desai and all would go to Eros for a movie. When Bombay, and they would be told that we are going to this theatre just across CCI. And, if there is a slump, do tell us, and they would go for a matinee show. And, I thought it was just a metaphor in terms of the confidence of the bowlers in the Bombay batting. But after asking a few people, I realized that, there was some reality to what they did. And I can assure you, we didn't go for movies, but generally we felt, I wouldn't say we were overconfident, but we were sure of ourselves. And Uh, Very rarely did you see a Bombay team get rumbled, but when it happened, then you started worrying because it didn't happen too often.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes when you're not used to a certain environment, uh, when it comes along, or a situation that comes along which you never sort of even visualized,
You don't
it
know how to
takes
react.
harder to accept it, and it makes it more difficult in that sense. So we knew that, you know they'll have to really outplay us on a daily basis to win this easily,
Yeah.
because the first day actually sent out the wrong signals. But I think we were quite sure across the 5 days that we would come back into the game, unless they just ran away with it. And uh, I was not surprised that we came back to almost win it. But to be honest, on hindsight, we didn't play well enough to warrant being champions on in that game. And I look at it not from the best team of the tournament perspective. I just feel that in that game we were not up to our A game, and they deserve to win. I mean, the margin may have been as close to one run, but uh, at the end of the day, when you look back, you just don't look at the margin. You look at how badly you have played, or have you played well
Correct.
enough to deserve a win. And to be honest, we didn't deserve to win, because but for that comeback in the second innings with Sachin and Dilip, uh, we were actually not. But we knew that somebody would come up on the last day. It could have been any one of us, and there have been occasions where others have watched. Well, I mean, I remember coming back into a Bombay team in Sachin's first year, 1988, where in the semi-finals, I think quarter-finals, it was against UP. We were bundled out for 220, a full batting side. We had Sachin, Sanjay, Ravi Shastri, Chandrakant Pandit, Lalchand Rajput. Just except for Dilip, everybody was there. And we scored 220, and the least expected person got 145 out of it. It was me. And but these things happened for Bombay. I mean, you found that sometimes everybody did try and play a part. I remember that game for two reasons. In the first innings, I think there were no third umpires, but I think after scoring 29, I got cotton ball to a left arm spinner, and GR Vishwanath was watching that game, and he came and told me, "Why didn't you wait for it? Because it didn't look like it was out." And I
Yeah.
said, "Sir, the way they went to the umpire, and the way they started, applauding and congratulating the boy, I thought maybe he picked it up cleanly." He said, "For once, a Bombay player believed." Generally, Bombay players don't walk. He said that. So he said, "Yeah, you should have waited, because I think he took it on the bounce." And I said, "I don't know, but the way they went to congratulate the bowler, it was a low straight drive, which he just picked up, and everybody went, and that's what we've done all our lives. So uh, not for a moment did I think that they would have probably been playing the same game we play. But these are things you look back with a smile, and yes, it was disappointing, but there were a lot of positives in a sense that came out, and India got to see the new Sachin Tendulkar. It got to see Vinod Kambli, who was just getting onto the big scene. It saw Dilip play one of the best knocks in first class cricket, and of course Abby's spell in the first innings.
Yeah.
I think Abby bowled with a lot of fire, and he was actually picked from nowhere. If any people remember, he was not even in the Bombay 30 in that
Correct. Yeah.
season.
Yes.
Yes.
He
Yes.
was a part of a Mafatlal fast bowling camp that was run by Frank Tyson, and he just came in from nowhere. And credit to the selectors, they blooded him straight away
Yeah.
without giving him an opportunity to settle in and all. They said that he's ready. Let's just play him. So uh, at the end of the day, there's a lot of positives for Bombay from that game. But let's not take into account my off spin. We'll leave that aside. Uh, but it was a great game to be watching, and not so great to be on the losing side.
But sir, what was happening in the dressing room in those final stages when Abby was in there, and Do you remember what was going?
Bombay had a very funny tradition that when things were going well, you were asked not to leave your seat. I think it still exists somewhere in Indian cricket.
Yep.
And I remember one game. I mean, this was a tradition. Utunokos, just sit there, wait there, don't get up.
Yep.
Because everybody believes that you know luck plays a huge part in all these issues. They
Yeah.
just don't move from here. So fair enough. So I remember I was somewhere in that old dressing room. There was the players' enclosure, and I was sitting at the end, and I was told just don't get up from there. And actually, if you remember the last run out, the ball went somewhere to fine leg or between square leg and fine leg.
Square leg and fine
And
leg, yeah.
I honestly I was blocked by the side screen because the side screen used to be right till the end and the players enclosure and if you were sitting at the back of the players enclosure you could not see anything on the leg side that is toward fine leg if you were sitting at the players enclosure because a lot of it was covered by the side screen. So when that run happened, there was a sort of mind block for me as to what is happening, and I was not allowed to get up. These were things that players. Sachin Tendulkar, I remember, was somewhere in one corner. He was not moving from there. Somebody was taking a massage. He was told to sit on that or sleep on that massage table, not to get up. So we did everything in the background to ensure that luck played its own part, and we didn't try and change that. Uh, it was something that was a feature of Bombay cricket's dressing room anecdotes. I remember in one game in the semi-finals, quarter-finals, that we lost to Bengal on the spin of the coin. Uh, could have been a year before that, where we were playing at Eden Gardens. Our manager and coach was Vijay Bhosle, and it was a cold winter's day where Calcutta the fog sets in very early. So by 3 o'clock or quarter to three, the game is called off. And there was a huge opening partnership between me and Lalchand Rajput. And Vijay Bhosle was, I think, tucked. He was leaning against a tree when he went in the morning, and the ball was moving around, and no wickets fell up to lunch. So Vijay Bhosle was told, you just lean against that tree. Don't come anywhere near the dressing room. So every evening, I remember he would come in, and because we had such a huge partnership, he would come for a massage. He was saying that तुम्ही मला तिकडे असा टेकून ठेवलाय, माझी पाठ गेली. So these were little things that added a little bit of excitement in the dressing room, and also brought a laugh after we retired. That game was something similar. There were people doing things in the dressing room, and they were told to keep doing that till no wicket fell. And if you remember that till Dilip was there, we were all doing what we were supposed to do. Just hang on and be there, and expecting Dilip to also be there till the end, which he did actually. And it's just unfortunate that we underestimated Abby, the batsman, because if we had, I think Dilip was just keen to shield him and make sure that he takes us home. But I don't think any of us knew about Abby in terms of what he could do with the bat because we hadn't seen much of him. He came from nowhere, and we were just underestimating the fact that he could have probably stayed there. But on hindsight, all these things make sense. But when you're there at the moment, you do exactly what your instincts tell you, and I think Dilip did that. And we lost by a run.
And actually, the margin was of course very close, but there was a cricketer in the Haryana team called Rajesh Puri. He made a diving stop at long off. There was a full-blooded drive by Vengsarkar sir, and it would have gone for a boundary, but Rajesh Puri actually saved 3 runs. So that made all the difference in the end. At that stage, Mumbai needed less than 10 to win. The margin had been brought down. So yeah, it was like, and then I think Prasad Desai, who was a reserve member of the Mumbai team, he was the one who actually went to square leg where Mr. Vengsarkar had collapsed, and he actually got him back to the dressing room. I mean, Shishir sir, what do you recollect? What I mean, how was he in the dressing room, Mr. Vengsarkar, after that
I
innings?
didn't go back to the dressing room. I just stayed out because it was, it was a mix of emotion. I think what we saw on the ground was, Dilip's reaction was very emotional.
Yeah.
I also think that was towards the end of his career. So
Yes.
he,
Yeah.
I think he retired a year, 2 years after that, or a year
Yeah,
after
after
that.
the Australia tour, the following season he retired.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe he felt this was his one way of bidding goodbye to domestic cricket with a win, which he wanted very badly.
Hmm.
Um, and and also the fact that we had played Haryana a couple of times before that in the years gone by, and we, we seem to have won all those games without much trouble. Whether we played on a on a absolute uh, turning pitch, you call it a turning pitch, you call it a minefield. We played one in Rohtak
Hmm.
first, then we played in Faridabad, then we played in Mumbai. So we played Haryana quite a few times, and to beat Haryana with Kapil in the team would have been probably the first time, which was something I think Dilip also wanted to do, like all of us, because Haryana without Kapil there was probably like Mumbai without Gavaskar and Vijay Merchant in those days, or a big player, and Kapil was obviously one of the
Yep.
greatest in the world. So
Yep.
so in a sense, I think it was Kapil Dev who made all the difference, because I
Yep.
remember one thing. In those days we had that old dressing room, and at every lunchtime, Kapil would come to our dressing room and say, "Arey, ek baar to jeetne do, ek baar to jeetne do." And I remember Dilip, when you entered the dressing room from the back, from not the main entrance but from behind, Dilip's chair was the first chair on the left. I
Yeah.
mean, left meaning when you entered on the left, Dilip would sit. So he was the first guy Kapil would come to, and he would sit
Hmm.
next to him and say, "अरे एक बार तो जीतने दो, आप लोगों ने इतने बार जीता है, एक बार तो जीतने दो." And Dilip would say, "यार तुम थोड़ी हंस के हमको ये करोगे, तुम तो छोड़ने वाले आदमी नहीं हो." And he would just say, "नहीं नहीं नहीं नहीं, हम कौन है, हम छोटे हैं, and then after Kapil would go, Dilip would say, "इसका सुनना मत, हाँ? You ready? He'll give it all inside." He's just trying to soften us up. But don't take this guy. वो क्या मीठी सुपारी है.
Mind
And,
games.
Devendra, you should.
असं ऐकू नका सोडत नाही हा बाहेर. And we realized that there was a great amount of camaraderie off the field, and but when he went on the ground, I mean, both were fierce competitors, and of course, um, both wanted to do their best. I think Kapil Dev and Dilip Vengsarkar in that game really stood out in a sense in terms of being iconic figures of Indian cricket, and it showed in the way they played. It showed in the attitude in that game. They were just a cut above everybody else, and wanted very badly to win. And I think it hurt Dilip a lot, because he probably felt there he could have taken us over the line, and we call it error of judgment, call it instinctive reaction. I think for it to sink in, because he was at center stage when it happened.
Yep.
Sometimes when you're outside the ambit of the boundary, you you have a pulse of emotion, and you have a pulse of what's happening, but somewhere you may be a little distant from what is actually happening in the middle. But when you're in the middle and things happen, then I guess the intensity of that emotion is that much more higher, because
Correct.
you're actually on center stage and the arc lights are on you, and it's like
Yep.
just a different feeling when you're in the middle. It's much like watching a game and being in the
Yep.
middle. And that reaction from Dilip obviously made headlines, not only in the Indian media but also in the international media. But uh, it was an emotion that actually said much more than the one run loss. It was
Yep.
Vengsaka's desire to win the Ranji Trophy.
Yep.
I mean, Bombay players always had the desire, but I think that much more for Dilip, because I sense he was feeling he was at the twilight of his career, and this win meant so much more to him, as it would have meant to Bombay cricket. And uh, we still talk about it. That game, and we still talk about the fact that we played two games in that year which was so close. One was a one run win over Delhi in the first innings,
Yep.
and this final. And I must say that we when we look back, there are a couple of games that stand out in our minds. People talk about Paddy Shivalkar's spell against Madras in the 70s,
Yep.
where he finished the game in 2.5 days. I mean, I guess that generation of players, when they meet this, they still talk about it.
Yep.
I guess our generation will keep talking about this game with bitter and sweet memories.
I agree. In fact, sir, on that same note, we had a question here from the audience, from Siddharth. Every player has his or her own way of dealing with a loss. How did you deal with it? Given the fact that it was such a narrow loss. So, if you could
I
just
didn't
throw
sleep.
light on that.
I didn't sleep.
Oh, okay.
I didn't sleep for a few days. I was tossing and turning. It seemed, I don't know. Sometimes it just I got a sense that for Bombay players, and I say only Bombay players who the effects of a loss
Yep.
were not so much on where is my career going to go after this, but it was like it was a black mark against you. And maybe that because we didn't have so much cricket in those days, it was something that you lived
Look
for,
forward to.
to win the Ranji Trophy. So I guess it wasn't something that you held your head up, and if you won the Ranji Trophy, it was not something that you would sort of carry with you as, look what I've done. It was like another day at the office. But when you lost a game, be it a league game or be it any game for Bombay, you just didn't feel that you did the right thing. Sometimes actually blaming yourself too much and feeling guilty about it.
Yep.
But I think there was this culture of in the Bombay environment in those days where you're not supposed to lose. I mean, losing was
Not an option.
actually, it's very very difficult to put a finger, but losing wasn't supposed to be a part of your game, if I may put it that way. And I think a lot of us didn't sleep. A lot of us, you probably, today cricketers, they lose a game and they get back into actions straight away. They're playing the next game. They have to switch emotions of franchises, of teams,
Yep.
change their whole mindset. So they don't have time to mope over or cry over what has gone by. We had enough time to cry over what happened, and maybe that is why Bombay never took their losses very well. It hurt them more than other teams because they were not used to losing. And I think this game being so close must have been all the more difficult for each one of us. Not only me, I think every player, including the reserves,
Yep.
they felt as much as the guys who probably were at center stage, and it was a different feeling because to lose a game was like you lost probably one game in the whole season, and that could have been the final. And generally, I mean, if you look back at the history of Ranji Trophy, you will realize today there's so much cricket that a loss doesn't hurt you as much, and it's like if you've got so much money with you and you lose a few thousands or a few lakhs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in those days, there was only one thing, and that was the Ranji Trophy.
Yep.
I didn't see a lot of Bombay players feel the same when they played in the Dulip Trophy or they lost the Dulip Trophy. ते मराठीत बोलतात ना की एक आपुलकी असते आपली टुर्नामेंट आपली आपुलकी word. My Marathi is pretty bad, but that ownership that I belong, this belongs to me. It's my toy. It's mine. How can you have it?
Yeah.
Maybe that was what kept Bombay cricket ticking, and the ability to cope with the loss was very difficult because it didn't come often, I guess.
Agreed. Devendra, from a fan's perspective or from an outsider's perspective, right? We've heard the player in Shishir, sir, but what did you feel about this loss? How was your reaction having followed Bombay cricket for so long?
Yes, Mumbai had won the Ranji Trophy in 84-85 before that. And the next 5 or 6 seasons, I think we had reached the quarterfinal, semi-final, but somehow stumbled at the final hurdle. And this is why, this meant a lot. And the very fact that it was the first Ranji Trophy final that I was watching live. Again, unfortunately on television and not at the stadium. But it meant a lot. And, and seeing all these heavyweights, all the Maharathis, what a batting lineup we had. Lalchand Rajput, Shishir Hattangadi opening, then Sanjay Manjrekar, Dilip Vengsarkar, Sachin Tendulkar, Vinod Kambli, Chandrakant Pandit. I mean, amazing cricketers, all of them. Salil Ankola, Raju Kulkarni. So it was absolutely, as I said, we were absolutely gutted. Having come so close, and the way both Sachin Tendulkar and Mr. Vengsarkar batted that last day, it was just phenomenal. And I think also I think after that season, it was played that season was like it marked the cusp of the transition between eras. Because after that season, then you had a whole bunch of new cricketers coming in. Sachin became captain, and then you had a fresh batch. Jatin, Amol, Sairaj Bahutule, Nilesh Kulkarni, they all came in. So that Ranji Trophy final, in many ways, it signaled the end of an era in Mumbai cricket. That is what I recall about it.
I think Devendra makes a very valid point. If you look at the history of Bombay cricket, you will see that players have played over a decade. Guys who have played for Bombay, and you will in that decade find a lot of guys who will make their test debuts, who will go on to play for India, and the guys who don't play will play for a decade, and then a new breed will come. It's been historically, that's what has happened in the days. And I think by the time the season of 91 came, when I led Bombay for in my last season, 91-92, was when Lalchand Rajput had moved away to Assam or something. Chandrakant Pandit had gone away to MP. So the guys I played a decade with, Ravi Shastri, Dilip were playing for India. Sachin had already come in and he had made his mark. He had started playing for India. So the guys who were Sulakshan Kulkarni had moved away to Assam or some other state. So the guys who I had played with for over a decade, Mr. Gavaskar had retired. Raju Kulkarni was there, myself. Abby had just come in that game. But post that, I think the clock was turning in terms of the new breed coming in. So if you saw that the next breed that came in the year 91-92, there was Zubin Barucha, there was Samir Dige, Jatin Paranjpe, Sairaj Bhautule. Abby had just come in the year before. But, all the youngsters that came in who served Bombay for the next 10 years, some of them going on to playing for India, and the others, Amol Mazumdar, they all sort of played for the next decade or more. But what happened is, Devendra makes the valid point that, that was actually the twilight of a lot of our 10-year careers. Some of us chose to retire, like myself. Some of us went away to another team to play. And I think they also realized, a lot of my colleagues had realized that the clock was ticking and they needed to do it. Because Bombay, historically, people want to keep you after 10 years. If you're not playing for India, which is a fair call for selectors. What is the point playing for a state? Don't aspire to play for India, or at 29, you're not going to be picked for India.
Hmm.
Uh, if you were picked, then you might play one season or no. And there was no IPL to keep you motivated. Uh, so, uh, yes, it was probably, Dilip also immediately after that, maybe a year later, he retired.
Yeah.
Ravi also, after a year, he retired.
Yeah.
Then the new breed came in with Sanjay at the, leading the team, and there was Sachin, Vinod. So all these guys who came in after that, so it was the end of an era also. I mean, that game was special, but it was also towards the end of an era of Bombay's cricket, of a 10-year spell where everybody was together, playing together.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, it was also a realization that I couldn't have played for another state after that. Having been a part of a setup for 10 years, right? And maybe, 5 years junior cricket, for me to go and play for another state would have been too much of an adjustment. Not only cricket would have been the same if you would have had to play cricket, but there's a lot of time you spend in the dressing room, and you build a camaraderie from the game with your colleagues, and
Yeah.
that would have been new adjustment to make. So that never motivated me because I had got used. Because most of these guys you played with from junior cricket, and some of them, the seniors, they became a part of your life. Names you sort of reading about in books. They became a first name basis, uh, a colleague, which you thought you were, just privileged to be a part of. So yes,
Agree.
that was actually a end of also a wheel of 10 years. And uh, yes, the new bunch came in immediately when I was leading, and they served Bombay cricket
Yep.
uh, for or some for a decade, some for over a decade, some for less than a decade, but the core team remained for a long, long time.
And you mentioned Amol Muzumdar. Amol was incidentally a ball boy in that game. He was the under 16 captain of Mumbai, and he was one of the ball boys. And couple of seasons later, he made his first class debut against Haryana, and he scored 260, and it's a world record for the highest individual score made by a player on first class debut, and that record still stands.
Yeah, well, I think being a ball boy and watching us lose would have motivated him to make that 260 because uh, he can take some credit for that poor performance to motivate him as a ball boy. But knowing him and knowing his passion for Bombay cricket, I think it would have hurt him as much, Um,
Yes.
and he took it out somewhere, maybe a few years later. But that's good
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah, I think what is fascinating, sir, from yours and Devendra's comments is that it's so difficult in today's world, because we don't get to see such high quality contests or such players in the domestic circuit anymore because of so many international commitments, IPL,
Correct.
and all that's going around. So that's why this game, we thought it's so important to bring out on a public platform like this because today's youngsters or generation that follows cricket may not know the relevance of domestic cricket or the importance of how you guys used to look at it in your era versus how it is played now. So I think that was fascinating to hear in terms of how competitive and how passionate you guys were when it came to playing Ranji Trophy cricket in general.
So it was something different. I'll tell you why. Because we as first class players who played for a team that is supposed to win, got say 6 or 7 games in the season.
Yeah.
And that was all we got, Ranji Trophy. Uh, uh, Players from other states like Gujarat and Baroda and Maharashtra may have got 4 games. That was
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
four multiplied by 3 days. So that is like 12 days of really good first class cricket.
Yeah.
Uh, Having said that, we after that, or that we got a lot of club cricket and time shield and all that, which actually were equally important.
Yeah.
And in an era where there were only about 4 home test matches every year,
Yeah.
uh, you found that test players did turn up and come and play club matches and time shield and stuff like that, which actually made you feel that it's a good platform to showcase anything you have. Because
Correct.
I mean, if a Gavaskar is watching you or a Venkatakar is watching you on the field and you score 100 runs, I'm sure there is the word would spread around that Dilip is impressed with you. Or I mean, it's like a young kid who played in the Tendulkar era.
Yeah.
If Sachin was impressed with you, it would make a serious difference to his
Yeah,
own
absolutely.
career. And
Yeah.
the fact that so we had that advantage that because of fewer matches in a season, we got an opportunity to play. When you played at the other union, you knew that you would play against a Gavaskar or a Vengsarkar or
Yeah.
or one of the big names of Bombay cricket, say Milind Rege or whoever. You knew that they would play up against you. And then if you got a 50 against them, you knew that you've attracted some eyeballs and made an impact. So that I think was very very helpful to everyone who played in that era.
Yeah.
I keep joking with Sunil Gavaskar and Sachin when I meet them. Not that I've met them for a year now.
Mhm.
That I'm one of the few guys who's played with both of you all. Because that's an honor you both don't have. You never played with each other. So Sunil always jokes that don't let out your age.
I agree, sir.
Well,
Yeah.
jokingly, I think what he's trying to say is not. It's about the number of years that I mean, it's a privilege, absolute honor to have seen two great players at the opposite end.
Yeah.
One is Gavaskar in his pomp, and then Sachin growing into a great
Yeah.
player. From his
Yeah.
younger days. So uh,
Yeah.
yes, I just feel that that club cricket, and because of the quantum of cricket played these days,
Yeah.
we will somewhere forget these one ball wins of Haryana and stuff like that, because
Exactly.
you have to just look over your shoulder and you'll say, oh, yesterday they won on the last ball. Mumbai Indians beat
Correct.
CSK.
Absolutely. Just going to say that. Correct.
So you tend to forget. So we actually we come from a black and white era where a Gurudutt film still makes sense to us. Uh, and probably we cling on to these things because uh, it was a very mystical area. There was no television.
Yeah.
There was very little television. And,
Exactly.
what you saw is what you heard on radio, commentary.
Yeah.
You built your
Yeah.
own ideas watching something. Um,
Yeah.
you read about stuff and you made your own sort of picture. So
Yeah.
creatively, I think you formed an opinion based on what you read and heard rather than
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
Today I feel I know Pollard very well because I see him.
On TV. Yeah.
He's like my neighbor. He's my boy next door. Why is that? Because I
Yeah.
see him every second day,
Yeah.
thrashing the
Yeah.
ball out of the park.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes familiarity also breeds a lot of contempt in that sense, and uh, it's nice
Yeah.
to be a part of an era there, where
Yeah. Yeah.
even a cricketer uh, is being a childhood inspiration without you sort of seeing him play because you heard so
Agreed.
much more.
Agreed. I think you nailed it, sir, in terms of, you're absolutely right. In that era, since we did not have so much of media, TV coverage and stuff, people like you and Devendra, are our eyes and ears when it comes to hearing those stories and reliving those moments. Because, you guys have been there in the action. You've followed cricket, Mumbai cricket specifically, as well as, been there and done that to kind of tell us these stories in context, because the generation today may not be aware of such events because of, like you said, the volume of cricket has increased so much. You have these last ball thrillers like saw yesterday, and it happens almost every second day. So we kind of miss that context when it comes to those hard fought wins or those hard fought battles on the cricket field. So that's kind of in the distant memory somewhere, which we kind of need to bring out through programs like these, where we invite guys like you. So it's such a pleasure, sir. On that note, I'll really want to thank you and Devendra for being here, and for enlightening us and the audience as well with such wonderful stories, memories, and your experiences. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
for having
much.
me. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me and making me relive something. Obviously, I won't have a very good night tonight because every frame of that movie will come back. It was well and buried in my mind space in my it wasn't there, but you put it back in my hard disk now. So wish me well for another sleepless night, and thank you all for having me.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir. Thank you
Devendra.
very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great night. Bye bye.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.